What is up, Fantasyland? Welcome back to the GOAT District live via the Player Profiler Network. Can you believe week 6 already? And of course, injuries becoming more and more a part of the equation. Before the 101, Justin Jefferson, Mr. JJ himself to go down. I mean, that's heartbreaking. And then for stud rookie running back Devon Achane to follow suit, and both fall on the R today. James Conner, Austin Eckler, Javonte Williams, just some of the names that we're going to discuss today with the host of the Rookie Big Board. You know him from DLF football. He's been in the GOAT District probably more times than anyone else. Mr. Matt Hicks is with us tonight. We got a lot to get to, so go grab yourself a cold one, sit back, and let's get.
GOAT District, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the and I always be trading. And I always be trading. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
What is up, Fantasyland? Welcome back to the GOAT District live via the Player Profiler Network. I can't believe it's already week 6. I'm super pumped to have tonight's guest on tonight. You've seen this man in the district many of times. He's kind of our rookie specialist, our college specialist, but he's good at every aspect of the game. And we love to pick his brain when he's on in the district. So stay tuned for a big one tonight, guys. I've got Matt Hicks from the Rookie Big Board. You know him from DLF football. And I mean, we've got injuries to some of the top guys in the game, unfortunately, as we roll into week 6. I mean, if you were riding Devon Achane, you were on cloud 9 and you came down to earth really, really quickly. And that's what happens, right? In this game we call fantasy, and in the NFL, that's what keeps it interesting. And tonight we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about a bunch of these players that are, some even surprises today with regards to injuries, whether it's positive or negative. We'll look at that. We'll look at how you can improve your dynasty rosters. We're going to talk a bit of dynasty today. That's one of Matt's specialty as well. We got a lot to get to. Matt, how you been, brother? I'm pumped. Dan cannot be with us tonight, but you're stuck with me.
I'm good, man. I'm glad to be back in the district as always. It feels good, dude. I usually have to wait until January or rookie season to get into it, but I think, it's a really fun time of the year because we're starting to see this 2023 class really take shape. And at the same time, I'm watching the college game and I'm already looking at 2024 and seeing that although 2023 is off to a hot start, man, this 2024 class is looking good too. So it's exciting on both sides of the draft, so to say.
I love it. And we're going to start kind of at that macro level. So just sit right there for a second. And guys, make sure you smash the like button. Of course, the subscribe. You're for sure subscribed to the Player Profiler Network. Make sure you also subscribe to the GOAT District channel on YouTube so that you don't miss anything. We've got the Owner's Lounge. We've got Ballin'. We've got our Thursday tailgate. We drop every Thursday night. We just brought in a new addition to the team, Harry Snowman. You've seen him in the chats. And we're talking, some prop bets, some lines, that kind of thing for the Thursday night. And then dropping some goodness for the weekend, of course, to help you guys get those W's. Matt, let's go back macro. You talked about the 2023 class off to a hot start, especially specific players, specific positions. Give me your macro, year-to-date assessment after 5 weeks with this year's rookie class. Compare it to what you see in the rearview mirror, and then like you talked about, you're already looking at next year.
Man, it's really strong. It's off to a really good start. I think what's really fun is that it's kind of happening at a variety of different levels, like across the positions, right? And so, right off the bat, you have CJ Stroud, you have Anthony Richardson, both when healthy performing as quarterback ones, like week over week, right? I think CJ Stroud is like quarterback 13 overall right now. But if you look at these guys, I mean, we would be so happy on any year to get one quarterback, right, performing as a QB1 in the first month of the season, man. I mean, we're so used to these guys, sitting 6-8 weeks before we really get into it. We have two guys when healthy hitting the ground, absolutely running. So that's really exciting. On top of that, we have a tight end one, Sam Laporta, right off the bat, really hitting the ground, being a featured part of an exciting Detroit Lions offense. And then you also have, of course, Puka Nakua just taking the dynasty landscape by storm. But on top of that, man, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, right? So we're seeing these impacts across the board. And we haven't even talked about Bijan Robinson. We haven't even talked about Achane, like you mentioned earlier, who unfortunately is out with injury, but after 3 huge fantasy football weeks, right? So just the fact that I can even get into this long ramble already about just the rookie impact in the first 6 weeks, it's changing the dynasty landscape right off the bat.
Yeah, and that's the exciting part, right? You can, we know we got to slow you down a bit, Matt. We know you got a lot to talk about tonight. You get excited about these guys, right? You get excited about them when they're in college. You get excited. We get you before the draft, after the draft. We love getting your takes on these guys. We're going to get into specifics. How does it look like compared to next year? If guys are deciding, you know how it is. We're in dynasty leagues together. Yes, I'm going on to probably my fifth title straight in one of the Matt Hicks leagues.
We'll see. It's looking tighter.
You're looking tighter, but we're still hanging on to the 5-0 at the top there. But yeah, let's talk more dynasty tonight, and let's look at next year. What should people look forward to? Are there certain positions looking better to those that maybe don't follow college as much once the NFL season starts?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, JD, I noticed that you failed to mention my 8-2 record in the GOAT League so far this year. So I get we'll circle back to that a little bit
Very
later.
respectable. Very respectable. Good turnaround.
But what I will say here is looking at the 2024 class, it's really exciting because there's a jewel at the top, right? Caleb Williams. We're talking about a type of guy that's going to come into the league with Trevor Lawrence-esque hype, right? If you were doing a dynasty startup right now, including next year's rookie class, Caleb Williams for me, first-round dynasty startup pick. He has unparalleled arm talent. The only comparisons we're hearing is Patrick Mahomes. He has game-changing mobility and athleticism on top of that as well. And then on top of that, we could end up with 4 quarterbacks drafted in the first round of the NFL draft, very legitimately 4 quarterbacks there. Possibly a 5th one could sneak in there. The wide receiver group, man, again, another crown jewel at the top with Marvin Harrison Jr. projecting as a top 5 NFL draft pick. But I love the depth of the wide receiver class. Tight end, Brock Bowers, probably going to be a top 3 or 4 rookie pick here. And then the running back class, that's where we need to see a little bit of improvement here. The running back class is down. It's weak right now. So we're looking strong QB, strong wide receiver, good tight end, weak running back. That's kind of the summary right there.
Okay. All right. So a couple things for Fantasyland to note. Start looking at, once you're starting to look at next year. I mean, we're talking about our teams that are doing well in Dynasty. But we all have 1 or 2 that maybe we're already looking to next year, and you definitely want to get a feel for the landscape, what's coming up, so that what you're moving, or what if you want picks or not. So we're gonna get back to the NFL. We're gonna get more into specifics. We're gonna look at specific players. Definitely gonna talk about JJ. I mean, that one hurts. I know in the GOAT district, he's one of our favorite guys. Definitely an on-brand player, and for him to go down definitely hurts. So we'll talk about that when we get back right after a message from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Rival Fantasy. Rival Fantasy, the coolest fantasy platform not enough people know about, but they will once I'm done, baby, because they're always innovating. They just rolled out seasonal leagues. We set them up for patrons, for our listeners, and they funded over $1,000 in payouts. That's what Rival's all about. They're always innovating. They already had the fantasy book where you can take overs and unders, stack them up, multiply your payout, but then they added challenges so you can set your own lines and put them out there for the community, and then you can browse the community's lines and say, hey, this guy's crazy, I'm going to take the other side. It's cool. And they have fantasy bingo. Rival Fantasy is reminding me how much fun I can have with fantasy football, and use that promo code PLAYER. The promo code is PLAYER. They give you a $100 instant deposit match plus $25 plus a free play. That promo code is PLAYER for up to $125 in deposit bonus and a free play. You can't beat it.
All right, and we're back with Matt Hicks. Make sure you're following him at DFF_educator. You know him from the Rookie Big Board, DLF, football, and of course the X Machine, Matt, as the kids call it these days. You're one of the best follows out there. So make sure you're following Matt Hicks at FF or at DFF_educator. Let's get into specifics. I talked about JJ. Obviously, he was going 101 in most drafts this offseason, Matt. Awful for him to go down. You know, any significant asset to go down, let alone one of the top 2 or 3 guys in fantasy, no matter which platform or format you're playing. He's down with the hamstring injury, going to IR. Is this recoupable if you have JJ on your team? And then what kind of ripple effect is there for us to look at, whether it's on waiver, whether it's to make some maybe smaller trades to try to fill the gaps? What do you think with regards to the JJ situation?
Yeah, it's always so nerve-wracking for me when it's a muscle injury like this, right? Because you see it in the game and you're like, that doesn't look good, but you're like, maybe he misses a week. Then he goes straight to IR. So it's always concerning for me right off the bat. But that being said, I've seen the type of offers being tossed around. I actually put JJ on the block in one league where I'm a contender just to kind of see what the offers I could get were.
Yeah.
And they're bad, man. I mean, people are really trying to, and do your thing, try to buy low. But I think if you're a JJ owner, especially if you're a contender, you just got to hold. You got to sit on it. Hope it's a quick return from IR. Hopefully the Vikings are doing the smart thing here, right? And saying that, it's probably a 2 to 3 week injury. Let's not tempt ourselves. Let's, let him rehab, take his time. They're looking 1-4 right now. I think for me, what the most interesting part of this is what's the ripple effect here? Because, naturally I'd be looking at Jordan Addison to step up. He's had a pretty impressive first month of the season, caught 65% of his passes. He's second from wide receivers in target share. He's got 3 touchdowns this season. But the other side of this, JD, is like one of the reasons that I love Jordan Addison's projection is that he had JJ across from him. And I love Jordan Addison, right? Like he was my wide receiver 2. I'm very high, or my wide receiver 1. Sorry. I was very high on him. But I actually think I would have preferred the lower volume share, not pulling top coverage, as opposed to now he's going to be pulling top coverage. Yeah. Maybe he gets an extra 2 or 3 targets. Maybe those things wash out together. So you think you were plugging Jordan Addison into your lineup, regardless of whether JJ is out there for the next 4 weeks, but it does give me just a little bit of pause there on how this offense is going to shake out. And is this team just going to implode, man? Like a 1-4 Vikings team?
At NFL Notify has a little rumor alert drop today with regards to Cousins. Now we're starting to hear, them being 1-4. He's always kind of in control of his contract, I guess you could say. And I think he's going to be at another renewal, I guess, at the end of this year. Is that accurate, Matt?
I think he's up. Yeah, I think his contract's up, right?
So does that do you think that's possible that the Vikings do look to trade? And wouldn't that just be like the, salt on the wound for anyone holding any of these Viking receivers?
Well, what I think is really interesting about Justin Jefferson, right? And factoring into, is it Kirk Cousins next year? Right. Is JJ has, I believe, 1 year left on his contract, right? And he did not sign an extension going into this season. And maybe nobody in the league has more leverage than Justin Jefferson, right? Heading into negotiations. So, I mean, if the Vikings go full rebuild mode, what does that say about Justin Jefferson? To Justin Jefferson,
Yeah.
I should say. Is that a red flag for him? Is that something the front office is going to want to avoid? And we've seen in the past, like Minnesota's not really one of these front offices that does the teardown thing. And even at 1-4, I did tweet out today they have a realistic shot at the first overall pick, and maybe they could get themselves Caleb Williams, but mathematically more likely is the Chicago Bears because they have their pick and then Carolina's pick as well. So, I think Minnesota would really kind of be stuck between a rock and a hard place if they were planning to move on from Cousins. I still think that if they were going to trade him before the deadline, it has to be some serious recoup, right? Like at least a high second round pick, which, doesn't happen very often in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough, right? Because if you're contending, you got JJ, it's kind of, you're probably not getting full value, right? Moving him now, but he doesn't
Yeah.
help you being on your IR that big of a piece. So you have decisions to make as a fantasy player, especially in Dynasty right now with JJ. I talk about this a couple times. I think it was Derrick Henry was my first pick overall in a pretty big tournament play last year on the FFPC, and still managed to win that league. So you can still win your league if your first guy goes down. It's a little harder, definitely, and that it's definitely we're not brushing it off saying it's you can work around it type of thing, but there are ways to plug holes, different ways to win, right, Matt? And you got to get creative if you've got JJ right now, definitely. But pay attention to what's happening with Minnesota, specifically with Cousins, because like you said, there's definitely big ripple effect there. The other news coming out is, a rookie that I was listening back, you were on 8 months ago. First of all, you were probably the first to say his name more properly than most people with Devin. How do you say it? Devin Achane? Achane? I can't even.
struggle.
All I can say is Achane. That's the only way I know it.
Achane, Achane. I struggle with it. I swear I say it a little differently every time. So I appreciate
you said it pretty good.
I probably got it right once. And I really
Yeah.
try, man. I really try to nail names. It's important to me, but I do struggle with. I say Achane. I don't know if that's correct, honestly.
So Jim A. Knott at Maynard29 Jim says the Devon Achane injury is the weirdest thing I've seen in years. He finished the game strong, was out at midfield afterwards, laughing, hugging Giants players. Now he's going on IR. WTF. Do you have any insight on this or any more information? What are your thoughts on it? I guess how to kind of manage this.
I think it sucks. Is that analysis?
So
What was so exciting for me with Achane through the first month of the season, right? Pre-injury. What I loved is that we saw play strength from him, which I thought was really awesome because the whole draft process, everybody, he's fast, but he's undersized. He's fast, but he's undersized. But if you watch that college tape, man, like you saw him play strong between the tackles for his size and at Texas A&M in an SEC offense. And I believe it was week 3, and you saw those 2 touchdowns in the red zone, and he had to power through defenders. And then last 2 weeks, you saw like big play catches and big explosive plays, right? So we were really seeing it all from Achane. What's really tough, again, it's the knee injury, man. It's like, this feels like one of the reasons the fantasy football, the running back landscape is so tough in fantasy football. Cause I swear it's like every time we get this player that's clicking, and just really producing at the position, it's a lower body injury. And we know these things nag. They're hard to predict. I think that at least what I do trust is that the Dolphins have enough firepower here where they're going to be a little bit more cautious with Achane. They can afford that. And Mike McDaniel, we know, will rotate in running back. So although I'm sure he is going to want to get him back on the field as quickly as possible, I don't think it throws off his total game plan necessarily. And so hopefully Miami will be smart enough to leave him on the sideline and let him get back when he's ready. We don't love to hear it from a fantasy perspective, but that's going to help us a lot more in terms of the long-term dynasty outlook, right?
Yeah, like you said, man, he's been awesome. 165 yards from scrimmage, touchdown against the Giants, fifth overall right now, according to the DPL, Matt, one of those high-end leagues out there. But in all seriousness, other than the quarterback position, fifth, where do you rank him right now? Achane, like dynasty wise, whether it's just at running back or even overall, depending on how high you do have him.
Yeah, I'm doing some quick math here. I have Achane right now in my dynasty rankings. Right next to Ramondre Stevenson, DeAndre Swift, kind of right in that tier below Kenneth Walker. So, I think he's right up there for me. He was my running back 3 post draft in this rookie class. And dude, he was somebody who I, kind of got just sitting there in the mid to late second round a lot this year. And what's so fun, man, why I love playing best ball leagues is because, I didn't even have to try to start him. And all of a sudden, the last 3 weeks, he's been making a huge difference in my scoring. Because I think I have maybe 60 to 75% exposure to Achane. So he's definitely somebody I'm going to be missing over the next couple of weeks for sure. And I think he's pushing that running back 1 dynasty asset territory, which might sound like an overreaction, but folks, you don't have to do too much to be a dynasty running back 1 at this point, right?
Yeah, I bet if you did some kind of poll right now and threw some names out, like some of these top 10 to 15 running backs right now in dynasty, it'd be interesting to see, the variety of who would take which of those guys ahead of Achane. I know there aren't too many. I mean, he's probably top 10, I would imagine, as a running back right now for most people. In Dino, I know our buddy Cody Carpentier at Carpentier NFL says Devon Achane now has the most touchdowns in the first 4 games of his career, or of a career. And then he said he will need 2 in the next 5 quarters to tie Eric Dickerson for most in the first 5 games. So unfortunately, we're not even going to get to see that. But just to show how.
And he didn't play the first 2 weeks.
And he didn't play the first 2 weeks. The guy's been awesome, man. Like you said, I've got him on best balls where you just took him super late, and he's just a nice beauty ad. Or you made the right draft pick in your rookie drafts this offseason by listening to guys like Matt and myself and the GOAT District. JT,
and too, just like oh, sorry, JD, didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just going to say, like, a quick lesson too, not to panic in week 1. Remember, he was a healthy scratch in week 1, right? So sometimes things are just weird, especially with rookies. And so, you can extend that to some of these other rookies who maybe haven't hit yet. Sometimes it's just a little bit of patience. People are on their own timelines here.
I remember getting a certain JT from you for a first, I believe his rookie season. I think that was actually in the TPL,
really?
where it was like, he hadn't done anything in the first few weeks, first handful of weeks. And that's what you got to do, man, is jump on those opportunities. So as we talk about these injuries in Dynasty, a lot of these guys, it's an opportunity to buy someone maybe you couldn't buy prior to the injury. Anthony mentions that even JT versus Achane is probably an interesting discussion in Dynasty, and I bet you it is. Again, I don't know that anyone would clear cut just take JT clear over Achane. I'm sure it would be more of a discussion closer than you think type of thing.
And he was a mid-second round pick at best. You know what I mean? It's just, it really speaks to the power of these rookie picks. And if you are this middling team or struggling team, dude, my number 1, my golden rule, 2nd round picks. They're cheaper. You can load up on them. Nobody in your league notices if you have 5 second round picks. They all notice if you have 5 first round picks. Load up on those 2nd round picks, man. It's the quickest way to a rebuild.
There you go. You heard it right there. A little writer downer from Matt Hicks at the FF Educator on the X Machine. Jeff Wilson, Matt, someone that I know I've got on the end of some benches, picked up actually last week, I think, off waivers in one league. He's been cleared to practice, but not play yet. He could be a sneaky add-on as we start seeing more and more of these injuries, and already seeing Achane dealing with it.
Yeah, it's a system, right? Like Mike McDaniel. He, the Kyle Shanahan connection is so obvious there, right? It's a machine. It's a system. Next running back up. And if Wilson is healthy and he's out on the field, dude, he's going to get touches. He's going to get opportunities. So is it a guy that I'm starting in 100% of my leagues with confidence? No. But if I'm in a pinch, man, like you said it, dude, we're starting to get to that point where injuries are piling up. We're getting into the bye weeks, right? So we're going to need to start plugging our nose a little bit. And you could definitely do worse than Jeff Wilson.
Yes. Let's go to tight end right now. The number 1 tight end, Matt, receiving yards. Sam Laporta in Detroit, someone we were really high on in the district, especially once he landed in Detroit. Again, we talk about opportunity. They had moved DJ Hawk So you've got that opportunity there with the position wide open. After 5 weeks, he's a tight end 3 in fantasy points per game, tight end 2 in yak, tight end 1 in receiving yards. He's got 31 targets, 3 touchdowns. Where does he rank in your tight end rankings, looking dynasty wise right now?
Yeah, dynasty rankings. So we just updated them for the rookie big board. He's tight end 4 for me in the dynasty rankings. That's only behind Kelsey Andrews, and I still have Hawkinson. I'm holding out Hawkinson over Laporta for now. It is so fun, dude. It's like one of the reasons I love watching these guys and tracking them over their college career, because it was just about this time last year where I was watching Sam Laporta at Iowa, and I was like, this guy's kind of fun. Like, let's keep an eye on this guy. As we're going through the draft process, I'm just kind of dropping it in there. Like, Sam Laporta, guys, keep an eye on Sam Laporta. Like, he's fun. And, we get into draft night and I'm talking this guy up. Like, maybe he sneaks into the back end of day 2, right? Top 75 pick. All of a sudden, Detroit's taking him with what? That early second round selection, right? I think it was 32 or 34 or something like that. And now we're 6 weeks into the season, and I've got to fend people off. There's people telling me that he's dynasty tight end 1 right now. And it's like, dude, how much can change in a year for these guys? It's so cool to see. But he's clearly a focal point of this Detroit offense. And, this isn't 3 years ago Detroit offense. This is a good offense that gets into a rhythm. And I think the most telling part of Sam Laporta's stat line is if you compare him 1-to-1 with Amon-Ra St. Brown, it's not that different, man. Like, he is clearly a priority here for Jared Goff and Dan Campbell.
Yeah, he's like you said, it's nice to see you add these guys on your dynasty teams, and we talk about often, especially in the district, about these rookie tight ends maybe not being as effective year 1, but you got to look at the opportunity. You got to look at are they going to maximize on his strength? And they definitely are, man. They're targeting him. He's all over the place, to be honest. Like he's out there like this oversized receiver, just chugging through people. So he's awesome. If you have him, I know I've got him in the fishbowl with Goff. And I mean, I think I got Jameson Williams as well. Not that he's done much, but eventually, right, Matt? Williams?
Triple stack that all in on the Detroit offense. That's a fun play.
There you go. And I've got, I'll also mention my Tua Tyreek Hill Achane stack, which is now just, 2 wheels on the tricycle.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's all right. I'm sure that's doing decent for you.
It's doing all right. All right, let's get back to it. Let's go to another rookie, CJ Stroud. Before AR landed in Indy with my Colts, a lot of people had this guy as the QB1. It felt like out there in fantasy land this offseason. Carolina obviously took Bryce. Now you're hearing Frank Reich kind of giving some between the lines to read through with, just him talking about ownership's involvement in, certain aspects of the game. So you got to wonder who made the call there. But Bryce obviously went to Carolina. Maybe they regret it. Maybe they don't. And then CJ falls to Houston. I mean, I believe you were pretty high on CJ Stroud coming into the season. I don't think anyone expected, just under 1,500 yards, no interceptions, 53 rushing. What are your thoughts on the young quarterback so far? What's his ceiling, and where does he rank right now in your dynasty rankings for quarterbacks?
Yeah, CJ Stroud has been, the second most impressive rookie performance for me so far this season. I kind of had CJ Stroud like right there, just below Bryce and AR the whole way through. Like, he was always that clear-cut QB3, and I liked his college tape, but I was always like, there's just a little bit missing, right? I just want to see a little bit more from his college tape. And that's kind of always what it was. And then he goes to Houston, and dude, I got to be honest with you. I'm like, behind that offensive line, you look around, look at the weapons, like, how is this going to work? That was one where I was like, we're going to have to let this one kind of cook a little bit, right? Like simmer a little bit, which is fine. It's okay if a rookie quarterback like isn't bursting out of the gates, right? But that being said, he absolutely came out. He looks poised. He has great decision-making. The arm talent's clearly there. He's making Nico Collins look like a superstar. And I like Nico Collins. Like, that's the guy that's buried on all of my 35-man dynasty rosters because I drafted him 6 years ago and never gave up hope. And all of a sudden it's helping me, right?
Nice.
But for me, what's the most impressive with CJ Stroud, again, playing behind that Houston offensive line, I haven't updated the numbers from this last week, but going into this last week, third most attempts of any quarterback in the NFL. CJ Stroud, the rookie quarterback with a rookie head coach, right, who has gone out and trusted him to throw the ball the third most times of any quarterback, 0 interceptions, right? The two other guys that had the most, again, going into this past week, Matt Stafford, Kirk Cousins, both have, I think, at least 4 interceptions, right? So for CJ Stroud to be able to do that, clearly raising the level, I should say, of the whole Houston team. It's super impressive, man. And just in terms of expectations, it's definitely high. What's interesting about his dynasty ranking for me is that I haven't actually moved him because I expected him to get to this point. And so I had him a little bit higher than consensus, but I didn't expect it to happen this quickly. So he's kind of held water with me as that borderline back-end QB1 type territory in terms of being a dynasty asset. So that's where I have him right now. I do think he's going to hold in that place until we see like more ceiling from him. But, off the bat, I could not have been more impressed from his first, 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, like you said, especially with his supporting cast being Nico Collins and you've got Tank Dell coming in. He just suffered a concussion. So we'll have to see if he clears protocol. Again, like you said, these pieces pop for us. We're all happy. And then we got to deal with concussions and the unfortunates of football. But hopefully these guys are healthy quick. Let's go to Puka Nakua with the Rams. I mean, yeah, I'm curious to hear what you have to say about the young receiver. I personally thought, Kupp comes back. He takes a back seat. This kid is for sure part of this offense, especially, with Stafford around, you got to at least think that both of these guys, we might even have a 1A, 1B type of situation like we do in Philly or Cincinnati or San Fran. What are your thoughts on the situation in an offense that I think a lot of people thought was maybe dead coming into the season? I know we were big on like the value with these guys that you can get with Stafford and later in the draft, but what are your thoughts on Puka, what he's done and what you think we can expect moving forward?
I swear, man, before the draft, people were going to ban me from using the word Puka Nakua. I was talking him up so much. Nobody cared. Nobody wanted to hear about this guy at a BYU. He ends up being a 5th round pick, right, for the Rams. But I was very happy. Obviously, I wanted that higher draft capital, but you could just see Puka Nakua's creative play style. And then you pair him up with Sean McVay. It already was this recipe for success. And then I'm watching over the first couple of weeks of the preseason. I'm listening to the LA beat, and everybody is talking about how much Sean McVay loves Puka Nakua. And I got really excited. And then when Cooper Kupp ended up needing to miss time, it was like, this is going to happen. Even heading into week 1, but I had no idea it could have been this good from Puka. By far the biggest reason that I'm off to such a hot start across my leagues. Dude, I'm not exaggerating. I think I have 90. I think there might be one league where I don't have Puka Nakua, and that's just because I play in leagues with rookie big board patrons, right, who had to beat me to him. But I have at least 90% exposure to Puka Nakua, and it's amazing. You look at the role that he has in this offense, and I think you're exactly right calling it a 1A, 1B, right? Nobody's going to sit here and tell you that he's taking Cooper Kupp's job, but we've seen, the target share, the volume's not dropping off with Cooper Kupp on the field, which was pretty apparent the whole way through, right? The Rams offense has never been an offense that could only support one wide receiver. So yeah, Cooper Kupp's going to get his, but folks, that's only going to help Puka Nakua. All right. You got one of the best wide receivers in the league pulling top coverage off of him. That's only going to open him up more. And I think what we saw a little bit of this past week, right, is Puka, I believe, is wide receiver 4 in PPR, despite the fact that he was not getting the touchdown volume. He only had 1 touchdown through the first month of the season. So if we get that touchdown volume opened up because they're paying more attention to Cooper Kupp, then it's really wheels up here. So, I've gotten the question of how much do I pay for Puka Nakua? Somebody's got to give me at least 224 first before we're talking about flipping this guy. might seem like an overreaction, man, but he's in that wide receiver 1, borderline wide receiver 2 dynasty territory right off the bat. It's the real deal for me, man. This isn't fluky, and I don't feel like I'm overreacting saying that.
No, I mean, he's definitely been the hot thing right this season. But when you say he's still getting 11 targets to Cup's 12 I mean, look, it's Cup's first game back. And I didn't know if Cup was going to be getting 12 targets or 5 targets or, 7 targets. So A, it's nice for Cup owners, and B, it's nice for Puka owners, as long as we kind of stay on this 1A, 1B trajectory. But it's funny seeing the Rams now. They've got Kyron Williams that's kind of take over into that backfield. I know he's dealing with a bit of injuries, but definitely a light spot in the backfield. You've got the receivers with Puka, and even Tutu Atwell has been a nice surprise. I know when the waiver wire, frenzy for Puka went around, Tutu was kind of like the low net that I was trying to grab if I missed on Puka, and I got a lot of shares of him. He's been a pretty good surprise to kind of as a nice bye week fill. Yes,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, absolutely. I
That
think
was a question. Sorry, dude. The internet like cut out, and I was like, should I keep talking there?
It was such a profound statement. I was sitting
I'm a deep
on
guy,
it.
man. I'm a deep
I
guy,
had to
man.
mull it. I think for me, what's helped Tutu, and I'm not, saying this to take away from Tutu, but to keep in mind with the Rams offense overall, as you're considering Cup and Tutu and Puka and what that volume load looks like, is that the Rams are going to be throwing the ball a lot. And they're going to be playing from behind or in close games a lot, right? And so the passing volume, I think, is going to be high, and it's going to support 3 guys. It can support 3 guys a week, as long as, Stafford's hitting his guys and pushing the ball downfield and things are clicking the right way. So, I definitely think you can look at it as these bye weeks come in and you need to use that flex spot more and more. Tutu's not a guy I don't think that's going to hit every week, but when he finds the end zone, when he gets that big play, it's going to be a worthwhile guy to have in your lineup for sure.
Guys, make sure you smash the like. Make sure you're following myself at JD Goat District on the X Machine. Of course, our guest, Matt Hicks, at the FF Educator _educator. Don't forget the _educator. Make sure you're following Matt. Always a good follow. Matt, why don't you tell us what else you have going right now? We're talking about the rookie big board. Help people find it. Anything else you have that people might want to look for right now?
Yeah, man, we're doing a lot already. Looking at that 2024 class. You can head on over to patreon.com/rookiebigboard, and that's where you can get access to my 2024 rookie rankings, dynasty rankings, and I do the Devy rankings all the way through the 2026 class. So that's current college football freshmen. What's cool about my rankings, what I like about it, is that I have a direct comparison, a direct set of rankings that compares all college players with all NFL players. So it's not hypothetical. You could pop on there and see, right now I have Caleb Williams as the 101 equal to Trevor Lawrence in a dynasty league. And you can kind of line up your draft pick values like that. Doing videos with, of course, at Rookie Big Board on YouTube, with Dynasty League Football DLF on YouTube, and also doing some written work here with Pro Football Network as well this season. So we're cranking it out all around, JD, but it's always focused on how do we give you an edge on your league mates, stay ahead of them with that rookie value, because if nothing else, this first month has shown how valuable it is, right, to win your rookie drafts. And I'm thinking about that 365 days a year.
Yeah, man, for sure. You're like I said, one of my go-tos. I know for the whole Goat District crew when it comes to these young ones, and like you said, especially this year, we're seeing how that edge could be paying off, right? Yes, some of these guys get hurt, but they still won you a few weeks, early, and there's a lot of season left. So we talked about Puka, we talked about Achane, we talked about Stroud, Bijan having a pretty good season out there in Atlanta. Gibbs maybe a little slow off the start. We'll get to him specifically, but looking at kind of offensive rookie of the year right now, who's your top guy right now? Who do you think is in the lead, or who do you think the top, maybe 2 or 3 guys fighting it out so far are based on your list?
I mean, it's got to be Puka, right? From an NFL perspective too, certainly I put out a poll for a fantasy football perspective on the X machine, I believe is the term we're using. And, Puka took like 85% of the vote. So, but I think from an NFL perspective, it's Puka, CJ Stroud, like those are the two. And then I do think Sam Laporta would be in that conversation as well. If Richardson was healthy, he's going to miss some time. I think, I've been really, really impressed with what Anthony Richardson has done, especially with that touchdown interception ratio. I know you as a Colts fan probably aren't too thrilled with what happens when he runs outside of the pocket, but yeah. I think if he was healthy and played 16 games, he'd be in that same conversation as well. So all of those guys have really impressed me early on. And he's not going to get as much hype. I'm not saying he's in the offensive rookie of the year category, but we should also be very impressed with Zay Flowers, who he's not on our show doc. So I'm just going to give him a quick shout out, really leading that team in targets. He's made Rashad Bateman look like an absolute afterthought, and Zay Flowers has done pretty well, but he's going to be limited by the Baltimore offense, which we knew.
Yeah, AR definitely looking good early. Does make us nervous, especially after seeing Andrew Luck scenario. And now just this evening, Indy, I saw a little headline sign Kellen Mond to the practice squad. I don't know if you have any input on that.
That's not that's not exciting. Sorry.
That was supposed to be in my Do We Really Care segment, but it was we were already talking about the Colts. So I thought I'd throw it in there. And you know what? Since we're talking about the Colts, what about Josh Downs, man? I think Josh Downs was a guy you were pretty high on, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I like Josh Downs a lot. Honestly, I'm not watching the Indianapolis Colts each and every week, but I do like the way he fits into that offense. I think, didn't he have a better week? Was it the Minshew week that he had?
So he just went 6 for 6 and 92 yards versus Tennessee, and it was I believe most of it was after Minshew came in. I didn't catch the whole game, so
yeah. And I thought he did all right, like the one other time Minshew came in.
I believe he did as well.
The concussion protocol. So that's kind of interesting. I think maybe Minshew's skill set lines up a little bit more with Josh Downs, but I think especially with a slot receiver, like giving them the time to kind of build up that rapport with the quarterback is pretty critical. So I'd say for the fact you probably paid third round pick for Josh Downs, right? By the end of all of it, that's not too bad. Maybe a late second round pick.
Yeah, no, for sure. He was a good call that you had. Another good call you had, I was listening, like I said, when you were on about 8 months ago, and you're talking about Jahmyr Gibbs, and you like the talent. You didn't know where he was going yet at the time, but you did still question. I still wonder how he's going to be used in the NFL with regards to volume and his usage. And that's probably concerning his owners right now in fantasy. I know it's early in his career and early in the season, but Demont, when he's healthy, is Gibbs kind of taking a back seat, you think, in that backfield? Excuse the pun.
I think this is what you signed up for, right? I think the Jahmyr Gibbs managers, you need to remind yourself, this is what you signed up for. We talked about this, right? But the upside was with the explosive skill set. I still think overall him landing in Detroit is a positive because the offensive line looks really strong. He's a good extension of that passing game. And we don't panic on the rookie running backs early on. Some rookie running backs, yes, they'll hit the ground with a huge volume load. But some of these guys, and it's not rare, even with guys with good draft capital, that they're going to get worked into the offense as they build that rapport. So it's not a Jahmyr Gibbs problem at this point in time. I do think what's a cause for concern is that David Montgomery is performing, and he's performing well, right? And so they don't need Gibbs as much, but a big piece of the running back rotation and the way that I feel like Dan Campbell is operating is the idea that Detroit, they're in a good spot, man. They're looking to play a couple extra weeks of the season. They're trying to get into that postseason. And the running back position is a position of attrition, right? And so as David Montgomery takes the hits, as the defensive front sevens that he plays takes the hits, that's going to wear everybody down. And you have Jahmyr Gibbs, man, with some pretty fresh legs relative to the rest of the NFL, right? So maybe this is a guy you can't necessarily trust to smash week in and week out, but you get to week 10 and all of a sudden he looks fresher, he looks faster, he looks more explosive than the defenses he's playing, right? We've seen examples of this. And so Jahmyr Gibbs, man, I could see in 4 or 5 weeks, he's the guy that's the cover photo for all of those articles. That's like, the guy that's going to win your playoffs or the playoff difference maker. You know what I'm talking about? So
Yep.
that's kind of where I see Jahmyr Gibbs right now. But it's a good reminder to fantasy football managers that this was baked into his value. This was baked into his price, that, it was going to take a little bit of time. He wasn't ever going to be a 300 touch guy. We were always looking for 200 to 225 touches, and there's still opportunity for us to get there.
Yeah, and you manage expectations going into the season, like you said, with a young running back, especially his type of running back. And you're looking at Detroit as the fourth team right now in NFL team points per game, behind only Miami, San Fran, and Buffalo. So the situation is good. Obviously the running game is being used. Demont is crushing it. He's a different style running back, but it's still, you see that there are points coming out of the backfield. Maybe, like you said, down the road we see a Devon Achane like breakout from our boy Jahmyr Gibbs. I know Theo was one of his favorite guys coming into the season. Two other running backs you talked about when you're on the show this offseason were Eric Gray and Roshon Johnson. Not like huge names or anything. I know with Barkley out, we didn't really see much Gray. Roschon, we've seen some nice kind of flashes in a rocky start to that offense just as a whole in Chicago. But I'm just curious, kind of to get a temperature gauge on where you are with these two guys, 5 weeks in or 6 weeks into the season. Is Eric Gray maybe someone we should still keep an eye on? Is he someone you kind of, threw down your rankings and maybe not as excited about him? And Roschon, like how quick do you think Roschon can really pay off for fantasy owners right now if they've got him on their rosters?
Yeah, I think the good thing about Roschon is he passes the eye test, right? So it's going to be a question of volume always with that Chicago backfield, because I do think they have 2 to 3 running backs that they like. But I think if you were just using your eyes, you would see that Roschon Johnson looks to be the most explosive guy there, looks to be the most consistent guy there. And what's good about him is he's always kind of had that 3-down back presence. I think that's what we talked about a lot. 8 months ago, we talked about the fact that he was going to get good draft capital because NFL teams trusted him as a 3-down back. They trusted his pass protection. And then when he gets the ball in between the tackles, he's got good vision, good explosiveness. So I've been impressed with him. I think what's good is that he's popped without catching too much attention from fantasy football managers. So he's a good guy, right? If you're, making like a bigger trade right now, maybe you're tweaking to rebuild mode and you just try to get him tossed into a trade, right? Just try to get Roschon Johnson added into the trade. He might be somebody who is the lead running back a year from now, as opposed to, a guy who's just kind of splitting carries in that backfield right now. On the flip side of that, Eric Gray hasn't looked super impressive. With Saquon Barkley missing time, you would have hoped that Eric Gray would have been right there to take the mantle and kind of be a factor there. They're mixing in Matt Breida. They are mixing in Eric Gray, but it's not there yet. The Giants' offensive line is horrible.
Disaster.
Yeah, it's a disaster. And so, is that an excuse? Is it not an excuse? You could go either way with that.
Super valid when you're talking about a rookie running back,
Yeah, it's hard because we talk all the time, the speed of the game, right? The vision, how you see the field. Daniel Jones is getting murdered back there. And so if the quarterback's not getting time, the running back's not getting the holes. I think what's encouraging on the Eric Gray side, and I know it doesn't count for fantasy football points, but it's something I talk about a lot that is important. Eric Gray is out there on kick return, right? He is, running back on kick return. That says a lot to me about, he's going to be on the team. He'll always be on the depth chart. He'll always be in the running back rotation if he's the lead guy on special teams, right? And so we talk about all the time, those rookies, those young guys you want to put on your bench, if they're playing special teams, it just increases their ability to be there, be available when opportunities come up. So it's not there for Eric Gray right now, but hopefully that offensive line gets it together. The injuries kind of lighten up a little bit for New York, but it's looking overall bad for that offense, especially that offensive line. And Eric Gray definitely has not escaped that.
Is there any hope dynasty wise, like for New York? Like, is Barkley a buy? Is Daniel Jones maybe a buy? Like in super flex? Like, what are your thoughts dynasty wise when you look at this Giants team?
It's tough to invest in the team, man. It
Yeah.
really is. And what's so wild as a Giants fan is like this is what we had been talking about for 2 or 3 years in a row, right? And then last year was like the whole team turned around, and now we're back there. I think the strength of the team is obviously on the defensive side of the ball, but that also doesn't yield positive return for fantasy, right? That's going to slow down the game, which isn't exciting for fantasy either. I've been off on Daniel Jones, but I will use it as a buy low on Jalen Hyatt. I'll double down on that pre-draft take that hasn't really hit yet.
Okay.
If you're in a league that has 5th or 6th round picks and you want to throw one for Eric Gray, like that's fine. I'm cool with that as well. Certainly, a guy that you can just kind of stash on the bottom of the bench type thing. I don't know that I would be buying Barkley right now. A combination of offensive line and injury history just always makes me nervous, unless you could get like a real deal, unless you could like pay like a 2nd round pick or something.
Yeah, it's hard to trade for that value of a running back at that age in that scenario. It's probably not the smartest buy. Was just throwing out some convo there, Matt, getting the peeps some hope, especially those reno mode teams. Those rebuild teams that are already down and out after 5 weeks. You got to give them something to play with.
And it's a good point. Circling back to it feels like a theme we've been talking about. It's like you look at the running back landscape and you're like, an injured Saquon Barkley behind a bad offensive line is still a running back one easily. You know what I mean? So
it's true. Sad,
it's
sad
tough.
but true. Sad but true. So speaking of running backs, let's end this segment with a running back in Denver who's surprised. I know leading up to the live drafts, the live FFPC drafts in Vegas, Jaleel McLaughlin was a guy that Theo is he just kept talking about him. We just started drafting the guy all over the place. We've got him on a couple main rosters. I've got him on quite a few teams, kind of back end of the draft season there on the back end of rosters as well. He's given us a couple decent weeks now. Week 4, top 10 production and another 18 fantasy points this last week against New York. You're hearing now that Javonte was a full participant in practice. I'm just curious, what can owners expect kind of rest of season? And then does he have value after the season? A guy like this that comes in with kind of low draft capital, low expectations, but is, surprisingly producing in a wonky type of offense in Denver?
Yeah, man. I mean, what a story. Undrafted free agent out of Youngstown, right? But he pops in the preseason, and it's why it's so important to pay attention to the preseason, like, Theo is accurately doing there to be able to scoop him up. It's clear that McLaughlin took the Samaje Perine role, right? We knew that role was there. We were all very keen on that role, but it was McLaughlin instead of Perine, right?
Yeah.
Which is awesome. If you're playing in redraft, you ride it out, you go for it, because I think, even for the rest of this season, Javonte Williams will have a split role with McLaughlin. I don't think they're just going to take his volume away. Plus, if you look back, folks, Denver has always split the running back position, right? With like Melvin Gordon. I know we have a new coaching staff, but Javonte Williams has never been a 60%, a volume guy, even when he was fully healthy. So that being said, we've learned this lesson before, right? Phillip Lindsay, James Robinson, you can ride these guys out, but at some point, it's going to catch up to them. And I hate having that negative outlook on it. But if you're playing Dynasty, if anybody's going to give you even a late 1st round pick, early 2nd round pick, unless you really need him, man, like flip this guy quick. You took somebody who you didn't have to draft. If you could turn him into a 2nd round pick, I'm going to do that 10 out of 10 times. So it's a great story. Cash in on the story. That's my move right now.
No, that's totally the move. That's how you build equity, right? In Dynasty is those running backs with low draft capital that pop, move them when you can. Michael Wilson, another pleasant surprise in Arizona. I know he was a guy that we were kind of on in the district. I know Dan really liked him draft season, and you're seeing he's getting the opportunity with, the craziness kind of in Arizona. What are your thoughts with him? We saw that one spike week where he gave you like a top 6 production against San Fran. Is this going to be like he's going to give you 2-3 spike weeks during the season? Or you think this guy's legit and might actually give fantasy lands decent starting capital with him at receiver?
Yeah, dude, I liked Michael Wilson. Athletic, good hands, kind of a twitchy wide receiver playing at Stanford in an offense that was garbage, that nobody even wanted to watch college film on. And I liked him a lot as a sleeper. And then Arizona went and took him in the second round or the third round. So my sleeper status, it got lost on him. His ADP jumped around. I didn't get any Michael Wilson, very little of him because I wanted to take him in the fourth. All of a sudden he was going late second. I was just because of the draft capital. So, Arizona really blew up that sleeper pick on me, but I'm happy with what Michael Wilson's able to do there. I think that volume is going to stay present. My guy, Josh Dobbs, who was playing at Tennessee while I was there in Neyland rooting for him. Such a wild story to see him doing decent. I was looking, I think he's QB 15 right now. So, Michael Wilson is certainly helping that. And if you look at the Josh Dobbs play style, like having that underneath kind of twitchy, reliable guy, that definitely helps him a lot with what he's looking to do and what Arizona is asking him to do. So I think it's helpful for this year, but I do think there's long-term, sustainability here with Michael Wilson and the volume load in this offense. So I like it. I think we're just going to ride that one out. I don't think you're going to really be able to flip him in that same way. He doesn't have that level of hype, but a sneaky guy to have for depth for sure.
It's harder with the receivers, but like you said, the good thing is he's going to be on the field, even though he's fitting this specific quarterback right now who might not be a long-term fix. He's getting on the field, which is going to give him that experience and build confidence, get confidence from the coaches to get him the ball as well moving forward. So I like that with Wilson. Let's do a quick. Actually, you know what? Let's answer a question first because we're close to running out of time here. Superflex, what is this? Is it? Yeah, I'm asking him the same question. I was trying to find out. We've got Fletcher Cox asking for those who are listening right now in podcast form, should I trade Waddle and Christian Watson for Puka, Elijah Moore, and CJ Stroud? It is Superflex, he says.
Oof, Superflex, I do it. Yeah. You get a QB, you get a borderline QB one, you get a borderline wide receiver one. I like Jalen Waddle a ton, but I sold him everywhere. I'm still nervous, man. Tua's lighting it up, but he's one hit away from that offense kind of falling apart right all the time. So, and then Christian Watson, boomer bust. Yeah, I'll go ahead and take the CJ Stroud Puka side of that. Yeah,
Superflex, I think you have to do it. Like you said, you're getting, we said what, a top, 10 dynasty quarterback right now, top 12. That is worth a lot in Superflex and is not easy to get either. So sometimes it's just about the opportunity. Receivers, I don't know what the rest of your roster looks like, or if you got to start 3 receivers versus 2, but they're a lot more replaceable.
Yes.
Than quarterback. I mean, you've got a couple guys I like there in Waddle and Watson, but I like the move. If you lost AR and you definitely need a quarterback, I'm surprised you have the opportunity, to be honest, in Superflex to get him right now, right? Buy high. Sometimes you got to buy high, and I think this is definitely one of those opportunities.
Agree. Yeah.
All right, buddy. We're going to skip the rapid fire just because we are out of time here. Again, remind the people where they can find you, where they can find all your goodness. And dude, I always appreciate you coming on, joining us. It's been a blast, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Patreon.com/RookieBigBoard. Dynasty, Devi, 2024 rookie class rankings, combined rankings all together. We have a super active Discord. We do like personalized trade advice, roster advice, just kind of chop it up on game day. Super fun environment, super fun atmosphere. So, that's where I would direct people. If you like this rookie conversation, if you want to stay ahead of your league mates, get that good rookie value that we're talking about right now, the best way to do it is to get in on it now. Learn the class early, and it'll be like a second language when draft season comes around. You'll be able to stay ahead of those trends.
Nice. I like that. Like a second language. And that's what we're here for, right? To give you guys that edge. Make sure you're following Matt and all his goodness. Make sure you're following at JD Goat District, at Goat District on the X Machine. Make sure you're following us on the Goat District YouTube channel and as well in podcast format on your favorite platform. Again, if you're on Apple Podcasts, make sure you're on the most updated stream. For some reason, we cannot get rid of that old Goat District stream on the Apple machine. That's a whole other maybe I'll talk to you, Matt. Maybe you have some kind of you can help me with that one. But no, we appreciate your time, guys. Make sure you smash the like, smash the subscribe, show all your support. Next week we have actually Matt's buddy John Lobb. We're going back to back. We love getting you guys back to back because it gives kind of a full kind of a full perspective. I feel like when we get you guys back to back, we've done it in the past, so we're going to do it again. Make sure you tune in next Tuesday night right here on the Player Profiler channel, 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll have Dan should be back. We might get Theo and Andrew. Who knows? These days, a lot of these guys are traveling. Dan's living that retired life. But that's it for us, guys. We appreciate you tuning in. We'll check you next time. Make sure you crush your week 6 and tune in on Thursday night. Actually, the tailgate, 7 p.m. on the Goat District channel. We'll check you all later.
Goat District, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offers the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the and I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.